What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about some canceled PlayStation games. I would say enormous. I would say ramifications, for the two companies that we're going to talk about. I don't know who put out the memo that everybody has to do something today because you could have spread it out. January's been a little empty so far, so I would have appreciated this to kind of be moved around. Hey, that's not the world we live in. Everything is happening today, so it's why we're making all these videos. So, okay, let's talk about what happened here. Now, in terms of the actual confirmation, this is confirmed. 2 games have been canceled, and the studios that they came from have been confirmed. Okay, now the game itself, you see God of War behind me, that I believe is still technically a rumor, although it comes from Jason Schreier. I think he broke the story in the first place, so there's really no reason to doubt it. I'm just going to kind of call it confirmed, but for journalistic integrity, we'll say that it's a rumor. So we have 2 more live service games, I should say, that have been shut down from PlayStation by PlayStation due to a, I believe, quarterly review. So when they do these annual reviews, they check it out. They decided that something was so wrong that they had to shut down both of these things, which probably tells you something, I would say. First one was a live service game from Bend, the makers of Days Gone. Seemingly, they've been working on it since Days Gone. We've seen a lot of job postings about it. We knew it was going to be like a somewhat open world game. You would have a motorcycle. It wasn't Days Gone 2, though, but you would have a motorcycle. There were rumors back in the day it was like a Men in Black game. I don't know if that was ever the case, but whatever, okay? We'll come back to this in a second, but that's the first one. Second one was a God of War live service game from Blue Point. Now, let me start there because I'm pretty angry at this one. I got some things to say. Well, let me start with one positive. At least they're really isolating and recognizing where things are just not working. Like I would have liked a Twisted Metal one, so the rumor that the Twisted Metal one got canceled, that's a little disappointing. But when you shut down and you make the decision to shut down like The Last of Us Factions from Naughty Dog, you're making a big decision. You don't do that lightly. When you're canceling a Spider-Man live service games, you're also not doing that lightly. But I can actually, and I guess I can see both sides. Like, I think it shows incredible amounts of mismanagement. I think it shows a company that had no idea what it was doing for maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago, which we'll kind of break that down a little bit later. But it's a company that maybe now kind of knows what it has been doing wrong and wants to fix it going forward. And I can respect that, and I actually think generally that is necessary. That was something that you could have used, that kind of foresight with something like Concord. You could have really thought about Concord a little bit more, but I can respect that. But at the same time, to spend some time on the Blue Point one, how in God's name do you follow that? Like, how do you get there in the first place? Now, I guess the rumor was from 2020 to 2022, so right after they did Demon Souls on PS5, right? And they're the remake studio, remaster, remake, they're phenomenal. They were phenomenal at it. After that, they helped work on Ragnarok. Okay, so for 2 years, they worked on Ragnarok, and maybe because of that, their next game since 2022, so we're talking about 2 full years, maybe even more, they were working on a God of War spin-off that was a live service game. Now, I want to say that why in God's name would you even do a live service game on God of War in the first place? That I do think should be a question. At the same time, well, you have The Last of Us, you have Spider-Man, they were getting live service things. And while I said before, the Spider-Man live service thing, I do think would have worked for a couple months. I think because of the combat, because of the gameplay, because of the structure, I think it would have worked for a little while. I think it kind of would have been fun, a little bit, wild, a little different, and then it would have completely fallen off. That's truly, and I've said that since we heard that it was canceled, that's truly what I think about it. It's maybe a good idea, but it's probably only a good idea in a vacuum, and probably only a good idea for a couple months. It's not a Helldivers. It's not a game. It's not any of these top 50 games on Steam that are going to last you for 7 years. It's not that. If Spider-Man was something you shut down, why in God's name were you still doing God of War for the last 6, 7? We heard about Spider-Man a long time ago. Last of Us was canceled a long time ago. Why are we still doing this? So, and also, actually, let me hold on even more. Why is Blue Point, a team that's done remasters and remakes, why are they doing it? This is what I'm talking about when I say the mismanagement, right? And, I guess going into that, there was an era, and I would love a book on this. There had to have been an era, the Jim Ryan era, I truly believe, but maybe 2-3 years from 2020 to 2023, or maybe even 2019, 2018. There was an era, a small little era of 2 to 4 years where they just made every wrong decision in the book. And the thing with the gaming industry is that it carries over, right? It takes a long time to pivot. You can maybe pivot from one game to the next, but the issue is there's like 5-6 years in between that, so it takes time to swap these things out. And when you have this happening, these are decisions probably made back in 2020, 2019. Let's get into live service. Okay, well, 4 or 5 years later, as it's become even more competitive and also way more risky, games can die the day they come out now. Maybe could 5 years ago, but you have a higher shot of your game dying day one now than you did 5 years ago. I fully believe that. So these decisions, though, were made 5 years ago, and they're still happening, and then now you cancel it, and then now you have to keep going. The issue here, guys, if you can't tell how angry I am, is that Bluepoint, an incredibly talented studio, was put on the wrong project. Who in God's name thought that this was the right team to do something like that? And now, okay, well, they're not shut down, right? The rumor, actually not even rumor, it's confirmed. PlayStation is not shutting these studios down. They are working with them to decide the next game. Well, I hope that whoever is deciding this next game did not decide the original game 3, 4, 5 years ago. And I will say, to be a little optimistic there, I think the answer is you need to calm down, Alex, because I do think this is where like that new age and the new leadership and just, I don't know, like new era of ideas, hopefully that's where we're at now, right? We are not at, okay, we're just going to green light, every studio is going to work on a live service thing. I think they're going to be a little bit more deliberate, in their figuring out kind of process. So that is one positive, but another negative is you have two teams. I mean, actually, the number one negative here is that you have two teams that have been working on games for maybe 2 or 3 years, and then maybe like 4 or 5 years. Both of them, the games are canceled, so you have to completely restart. So in the age that we're in, where it takes 5-6 years to get a game out, we might have been able to get both of these games in the next 2-3 years. Not saying I wanted them. I don't want a God of War live service game, but we might have been able to get them. Now you have to wait 5 years for 2 of Sony's, 12, 14 studios? That's a good chunk of them, by the way. When you only have, like, say, less than 15, and 2 of them are just starting, that's a good percentage that, like, there's kind of a problem there. You now have to wait half a decade. You have to wait till the PS6 to get games from these studios. Unless, Bluepoint specifically, I'll isolate them, Bluepoint can just go back to remakes. I mean, they have studios now that can do PC ports, and they have studios that do really good remasters, so maybe it's kind of a redundancy, but I do think Bluepoint, with what they did with Shadow of the Colossus, before with Uncharted, right? Shadow of the Colossus, Demon Souls, can we do Bloodborne? I mean, like, I know that's a touchy subject, but, like, can we? That would be a quick one, right? 2-3 years, it would be so freaking gigantic. I'm just, like, spitballing here, by the way, but just pick a couple remakes, like small. It doesn't even have to matter, but you cannot possibly have these teams take another 5-6 years, can you? I mean, I just can't imagine how bad that looks. Now, maybe the whole thing looks bad, but, and in terms of, by the way, the Days Gone thing, and I guess Bend, I mean, it's been long rumored that was live service, so I kind of got used to it. I also don't think that was a good idea. I mean, we just keep going back to the same thing when we talk about this. Look, I get they need live service. I get they probably want 2 to 5 games in that top 15 of, like, Steam charts, right? I understand it. I understand the reoccurring money, every week and every month and all that jazz. But these are studios that were not known for that. You cannot just change that on the fly. And more importantly, if you try to change it on the fly, which they did, and then you spend the next 2 to 4 years working on it, and then you cancel at the end of the day, you've wasted so much money, you've wasted so much time. And that's what we've seen here. Now, that probably was a 4 or 5 year ago decision. In fact, the leader of that time is no longer there now. So, I mean, you could maybe look at that and say, okay, where does this go? But yet again, I don't know. There's always been rumors that Herman Hulst was like Concord's #1 fan, and it's like, Jesus Christ, we need to just calm down, I think. And honestly, okay, like, let's just be honest for a second. They need to go back, certain studios need to go back to just doing what they're good at, okay? I understand the need for live service. There's studios out there that specialize in third-person shooters, first-person shooters, multiplayer games. There's studios out there that can actually do it. So yeah, I don't really have much more to say. I know you need live service. You can make live service, but please, for the love of God, let's focus these studios in where they need to be in. And why again, like, God of War was even a thing? I don't know. I mean, you think about God of War. And like Ascension tried with the multiplayer thing, but like didn't that show you in and of itself that it probably wasn't going to work? Why would you like double and triple down on that one aspect, by the way, of a pretty good game? I do like God of War Ascension, but why would you do that? So can we just get these studios back on track? And in terms of their live service thing, you better have like 1 or 2 teams on live service, and you cut the cord from there. You pull the plug, whatever the phrase might be. Find other studios. The studios that you have built are built for the single player stuff. Then you do that, because this is what happens when you don't. I think that's honestly, to end this video, that is like the biggest thing. It's like, you can try, and I'm not like opposed, I guess, to trying in certain circumstances, but have we not literally learned anything in the last 4 years, let's say, from PlayStation? We have had, how many? We've had like 5 or 6 live service games be shut down. We've gone from PlayStation talking about the 10 live service games in 5 years. Didn't they drop that to like 5 games? Remember when they canceled like 5? And then I think we found out about Spider-Man and Last of Us and all that stuff kind of after that. We've literally seen in real time games shut down, studios even shut down with something like Concord and stuff. We've seen it fail. We've seen the plan shrink. It was once a very ambitious plan, and now it's not. Why did it take so long? Why did we have to wait until January 16th of 2025 to pull the plug on these 2 games? You were just wasting time and money, and if they weren't spotted by whatever this annual review was, they would have kept going. So it's like, oh my, and I don't know, how do you test a God of War live service game, by the way, quarterly or every half year? How do you go in, play a God of War live service game, put the controller down, and say, yep, you're on the right track? How do you, whoever is doing that, how do you actually do it with a straight face? I would like to know. If that's Herman Hulst, I think there needs to almost be an explanation at this point. So yeah, I don't know. Big day for Nintendo, for PlayStation. There's a state of play rumors. We'll probably talk about that tomorrow, okay? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.